This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the HTC EVO 3D for Sprint. This will be available June 24th for the usual $199 with contract, and you can think of it as the replacement for the EVO 4G, one of Sprint's most successful phones, in fact probably one of the most successful phones in the last couple of years. That's because at the time it had a real winning combination of 4G in the form of WiMAX. There's more competition in 4G land now, we'll get into that. A big 4.3-inch display, Android, and a gigahertz CPU. So how do you follow that up? Well, this guy here has a 4.3-inch display, and it does both 2D and 3D. This is glassless 3D, and we'll also get into that in a bit, but nonetheless, it's still 800 by 480 pixels, 4.3 inch. It's a pretty nice display. Viewing angles, not very wide unless you crank the brightness up, but if you're looking head-on and you've got some colorful pictures like we have for our background here, you can see it's pretty nice. Replacing the single-core Snapdragon CPU is a dual-core 1.2 GHz Snapdragon CPU, same that's used in the HTC Sensation for T-Mobile that we reviewed recently. The phone has a gig of RAM, a little bit more than the Sensation, and it needs it really for that 3D processing we suspect. And also like the Sensation 4G, it has about a gig of internal storage, and it's bundled with an 8 gig micro SD card that we'll show you in a bit. It still has WiMAX 4G. Nowadays, with Verizon LTE being the fastest 4G on the market, and occasionally T-Mobile's HSPA Plus looking pretty blazing fast, WiMAX hasn't impressed us so much, at least in our area in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, where we generally have pretty good service from all carriers. We don't get much better than 2 megs down on WiMAX here. Now, I know some of you in New York City and some other areas may be getting faster download speeds, but generally we go outdoors and we get about 1.3 megs down and about a meg up. In comparison, LTE does around 10 megs down, and T-Mobile's Sensation 4G and other 4G phones average between 3 and 6 megs down. But still, it certainly is better than 3G EVO Rev A, which is what you fall back on if you're not in a WiMAX coverage area or if you're indoors. WiMAX is very high spectrum, and high spectrum doesn't penetrate buildings very well, so you tend to lose the signal when you go indoors. But you can see right here we've got a little 4G exclamation point because it actually can't get 4G indoors. Now if we were to go step outside, it would have about 2 out of 4 bars of signal strength difference. In terms of size, this is about the same size as the EVO 4G. It's a little bit taller height-wise here, a teeny bit slimmer. It's not really a thin phone, but HTC does a great job with the lines, and they make it look slimmer than it really is. It's a very nice design. You got the headphone jack up here. Here's your power button. Here's your volume keys. This is your 2D, 3D slider to change how the display displays, whether it's doing 2 or 3D, obviously. And this is a dedicated camera button. This we love. Every phone should have that. And it's nice and big, and it's a 2-stage button, too, so very easy to operate. The back here has a patterned rubbery finish, and we love this. Very easy to keep the big phone in hand. You've got your dual 5-megapixel cameras with dual LED flash right here, and that's because when it's shooting 3D, it's really doing stereoscopic recording, so it's recording out of both of these. Up here near the top we have the micro USB port, a little strange location being so high up, but that is what it is. And if you want to remove the cover, you yank right here, and we'll do that so you can see what's inside. And as you can see, if you pull the back cover off, it's like the Sensation. The cover wraps around the sides actually, so what we have here are naked phone sides right now. It's an interesting design, certainly. And here you got the micro SD card slot. It comes with an 8 gig card, and here is your battery, which is a pretty beefy 1730 milliamp battery, but you know, WiMAX really drains a lot, and so does the 3D video recording, so you need at least that. Really, you could use a spare battery. On the front here we have the capacitive buttons for Android control, pretty much the same as the old EVO. Nice and big and easy to touch, in fact a little too big, especially because they're down near the edge, and I find I'm often accidentally hitting the home button when I'm handling the phone. Large earpiece up here, and your front-facing camera. And compare it to the Sensation, you can see the Sensation has more of that Desire look. HTC has 2 different design camps. It's either going to be the squared-off kind of design or this curvy design. But otherwise, they're reasonably similar in size. The Sensation 4G is a little bit smaller, more curvy, and has a different style back with the metal unibody design versus the rubbery grippy thing here. Now I'll compare it to the HD7S. This is in the same design camp with the very rectilinear kind of design, and you can see it's again a little bit bigger. Also has a 4.3-inch display, the HD7, HD7S, like the HD2. And obviously it's going to be thinner because that WiMAX radio really takes up space. What sets this phone apart from most of the smartphones on the market, except for the LG Optimus 3D, is obviously the 3D feature. And you've got, as we mentioned, the 2D, 3D slider over here for the camera, so you can control what method it records in. There is no corresponding control for the display, and it depends on what you are displaying. So if you're looking at the normal Android home screen and the applications palette and standard applications, everything is going to be in 2D and it's going to be normal, which is a good thing because the 3D effect is a little bit painful on the eyes and the brain, to say the least. If you're playing a 3D game, like it comes with the Spider-Man 3D demo, or you're viewing some 3D photos and video that you shot with a camera, or looking at 3D trailers, which there aren't a lot of out there, but there are some that come on the phone with the HTC Watch program, which is a video download and rental service, then those things will be displayed in 3D. Now, I wish we could actually show you what the 3D is like as you're looking at the phone, but the best way to describe it is like looking at a 3D sandbox where you see the characters in the game walking around in this little 3D plane. It's not immersive like a 3D movie would be in the cinema, or even maybe if you have a 3D TV, but the effect is noticeable. I'd say in games it's a bit less strong looking, but it's also easier on the eyes and on the brain. I didn't feel dizzying or a difficulty in focus after a while playing games. Whereas photos that I shot with this, really you got to tilt and tip it just to get the right viewing angle. The viewing angle for 3D is very, very narrow, and it's just not real pleasant on the eyes, to be honest. The video that this shoots is a little bit easier to watch, and it looks pretty cool. It looks more 3D than the 3D games that we've seen for this phone. And it's kind of neat, it's kind of convincing and fun, but again, you got to find exactly the right viewing angle to see it. And because this is shooting stereoscopic with two cameras close together, you do tend to get some image overlap if you don't orient it just right. And it shoots pictures in .mop format. This isn't the kind of thing that you can share, say, with your 3D TV that uses active glasses, or even like the LG G Slate that uses passive glasses, a different kind of technology. In theory, it's a lot like the Nintendo 3DS. In terms of what the display is doing, and there should be some interchangeability of files there that we haven't gotten that working yet. Now, getting beyond the 3D thing, this is actually a really nice phone. If you focus too much on 3D, I think it hurts the phone actually. But in all the respects, it's really quite nice, and a nice successor to the EVO 4G. It's very fast. The 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon CPU makes for a very responsive phone. We like Sense 3.0. Some of you like Sense, some of you don't. I think more folks do like it than other manufacturer customizations. And you can see right here we've got the usual HT Sense quick launch stuff, and then the usual press and hold to see what applications are running, and then the quicker press so you can see all of your screens. And then you've got multiple home screens, and you can get a carousel effect going here, which visually entertaining, probably really not so useful. And all of HTC's goodies, like their Friends Stream for social networking, their contacts integration. Again, they have a movie video rental service that's available now on the phone. A couple of really nice things. So we like Sense overall. If you don't like it, you can certainly toss any of these widgets off the screen that you don't like, but the Sense software that underlies will always be running. The phone scores an even 2100 on Quadrant, which is pretty good. It's not as fast as, say, the Motorola Atrix 4G and some of the other NVIDIA Tegra 2 phones, which are scoring closer to 2500, the ones that do the best, that is. But 2100 is pretty good, and it's not too far behind my Sensation, which scored a 2269. Again, Quadrant probably doesn't even understand the new Snapdragon CPU all that well, so any little variations that we see between two models really probably have to do more with the benchmarking software. Linpack, it scores a 35, which is very solid, and it's certainly a good performer for games, and it can handle 1080p video really well. Why don't we take a look at that right now? We're going to go to the standard gallery app. As you can see here, when you launch the gallery, there's a selection. They've created some libraries here with 3D photos and videos, all videos, camera shots, and sample 2D photos and sample 3D photos, so they segregate them so you know what you're getting yourself into. And we'll go for a 1080p video trailer that we downloaded in MPEG-4 format. It's pretty clear and full sounding, and obviously it's handling that 1080 very nicely. So clearly, very capable for video playback. Great for multimedia. And this can output to an HDMI TV. You've got just a standard micro USB port here, or it looks like one, but it's really one of those MHL connectors. That means that you can put a composite adapter in there, like the one that comes with the Infuse 4G, and that will split out to HDMI. Unfortunately, one is not included in the box, nor is one included with the Sensation 4G, which has the same feature, and it's very hard to find these adapters. We do have one laying around, and we can say that it works just fine. The phone is running Android OS 2.3 Gingerbread, and that means you got support for Adobe Flash. The Adobe Flash plugin is not pre-installed, so you're going to have to download it for yourself. So we downloaded the latest 10.3 version, and we'll check out some full YouTube play now. And we're on a review right here of the Sensation, which has an embedded Flash video, and we'll play that. Now it's doing the usual play in a 360p small window, and we'll tap the control and bring it up to full screen 480. And we do have Wi-Fi turned on right now since we can't get WiMAX indoors, and Sprint's 3G isn't quite fast enough to stream smoothly here. It does just fine. Controls actually work reasonably responsively, which is sometimes a problem with Adobe Flash on Android. So, definitely good. The phone has excellent voice quality. It's one of the best we've ever heard on Sprint, and reception is quite good as well. You can see we have almost full bars here. We tend to get more like half bars on Sprint here. And signal strength in dB is quite good as well. We're not just going by the bars here. We have to download a utility called SensorLeak to actually measure that, because the usual Android applet that shows you network strength is hidden on the phone for some reason. In terms of 4G, it's not quite as strong as the Epic 4G or the EVO 4G. Not a lot of difference there, but we could usually hook onto one little bar of 4G inside with those phones, and with this one, we can't. That's not a huge difference in reception, but it's worth noting. In terms of applications, Sprint really hasn't put too much junk on here. That's pretty awesome. We do have Blockbuster here. We have a shortcut to 3D games. Most of these are GameLoft games, if you want to purchase those. There's a demo of Spider-Man 3D, pre-installed on the phone, so you can check out what 3D gaming is like. And we've got HTC's usual software here, like their footprints and their FenStream and a lot of other good stuff. And the HTC Hub, where you just sign up with your email address and you can download some free stuff like wallpapers and ringtones and all that kind of thing. HTC Sense, by the way, is supported with this phone, the HTC Sense MySense service, and that means that you can use the phone finder, the remote wipe. You can actually access a lot of data about the phone using your computer's web browser, like your last calls. You can access your contacts and edit them. A lot of cool stuff. We've got Polaris Office here for working with Office documents, and Quick Video for doing video chat calls with the front-facing camera. HTC Peep is their social networking software that works in conjunction with FriendStream. And we have Telenav if you want spoken turn-by-turn directions from Telenav rather than using the built-in Google Maps and navigation. Next, we're going to take a look at HTC Watch, which competes with Samsung's Media Hub, and both of which I suppose compete with the iTunes rental service in a way and download. You can buy and rent movies, and we've got The Green Hornet 3D as a sample movie that's included with the phone. Now you do have to create an HTC Watch account, which is simple. Username and password is all you need, and you can watch it. Other apps on here are the Sprint NASCAR app, Sprint Zone, and other than that, not too much junk. We're pretty pleased with that. So that's the HTC EVO 3D, and if you ignore the 3D part, it's actually quite a nice phone. This is a WiMAX phone with a big screen and a dual-core CPU, and battery life is, simply put, atrocious. You're going to want to get a spare battery for this. Those of you who had the original EVO 4G, you're used to this. You know the drill. It will run you about a half a day if you have 4G turned on before you're going to have to visit a charger. If you leave it in 3G mode, you'll definitely make it through the day unless you're a real heavy user of video playback and GPS and that kind of thing. It's fast. It has great call quality. The cameras, even if you're shooting in 2D mode, actually it's reasonably good. You're going to have a 5 megapixel camera basically. It's going to use one of those cameras to shoot for you. The 3D feature, headache-inducing, gimmicky, kind of cool sometimes, but not a deciding factor for buying this phone, I don't think. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Visit our website to read the full review of the HTC EVO 3D on Sprint.